Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Von Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to another edition of Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and every Saturday we are here with you. We try to share information, updates, activities as much as we can to help to develop our students, our young people. And this Saturday, of course, is no different. However, we will not be able to continue this show. It would be remiss of us if we did not take a few moments out to extend condolences to the family, friends, acquaintances, the entire Nevision public and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course the entire diaspora, on the passing of former Premier and current Ambassador, His Excellency the Honorable Vance Winkworth Amory. Of course, we know that he made sterling contributions to the development of the island and the Federation, but more specifically in the area of education. We note that he was a teacher. He was also an acting principal who then went into the principalship and then ultimately became the Premier and Minister of Education. And so the Ministry of Education, as I know is the case for the entire island of Nevis, we would like to extend our condolences and join with all of you as we pay tribute to and acknowledge the contributions of His Excellency the Honorable Vance Amory. And so we will go into a moment of silence. We will have a minute of silence in observance of his contribution, and of course as an acknowledgement of the passing of this very, very important pillar to our society for an extended period of time, for a very, very, very long time. So we will take that moment of silence, and then we will continue with this morning's show. Thank you so much for joining us for that moment of silence. We, of course, for persons who just tuned in, we had a moment of silence, a minute of silence in recognition of the contribution of the work, and of course in acknowledgement of the passing of His Excellency the Honorable Vance Winkworth Amory. Of course, listeners, we know that we will have here on Youth on the Go, we're going to have an opportunity later on to have a show dedicated to the memory of this exceptional individual. And so later on, students, we will have an opportunity to have a show which focuses on his work and his contributions. But as I said today, we just want to extend those condolences. And for those who tuned in late, we acknowledge at the Department of Education his contributions to the development of the island, of the Federation, but specifically as a teacher, principal, and ultimately Minister of Education. So we thank you for joining us, and we we encourage you to keep the entire family in prayers, and I guess family and acquaintances and loved ones encompasses the whole federation, because that is just the measure of the man. That is the magnitude of the contribution. So anyone who's associated with Nevis would in some way feel this very significant loss. All right, we are just a few announcements. We are aware, of course, that school has closed. School has ended formally for term 2 for the students across the primary and secondary schools. We want to thank you all for your contributions, parents, children, teachers, everyone, to a successful term 2. I think that since 2020, at every turn we meet new things and changes, and sometimes we have to make transitions, and this term was no different. In fact, this term we started out at the beginning of the term, and by midway through, or just about February, we noted that we were able to transition to our various school sporting events, and so that changed the direction a little bit. Of course, we know that all of our school sports meets have been concluded. Primary school, Maud Cross concluded their meet on Tuesday, and so we want to commend the team at Maud Cross Prep for job well done there as well. Commendations to you. So we have, as I said, concluded that season, and so students will be at home for most part, enjoying their time of rest and recovery. And we know how we feel, and we always try to encourage parents and students to always find time during these moments of rest to keep connected, to ensure that you're reading and you're doing various activities that will stimulate learning. And so children, that is no different. Parents, make sure that you're getting them involved in the various activities that are available. Some of them, they have a few camps going on, but we know that registration is closed for most of them. But just keep your ears open, keep connected, so that you will be aware of what is happening. All right, so ensure that you are connected there. Our next major sports meet is scheduled for April 27th, the 2022 edition, the 28th edition of the Gulf Insurance Inter-Primary Championships is slated for April 27th, 2022 at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. So we want to remind you of that as an important notice. As I said, students have been dismissed officially for term 2, and teachers will continue until April 8th. During that time, teachers will be working on reports, getting their documentation in order, in some instances having those parent-teacher conferences and activities such as those. So those are some of the activities that are in place for this coming week, and of course they will start preparing for term 3. Term 3 officially commences on the 25th of April, and it will end for students on July 1st and for teachers on July 8th. So please note, I know some persons are thinking about planning their vacation and what would be next, and so the closure date, the date for the resumption of school will be April 25th, with the closure date of July 1st for students and July 8th for teachers. And then of course we will start sharing information for the next academic year, which would be the 2022-2023 academic year. We are hoping that we can see more activities which are aligned to what is expected to be normal, or what we have captioned to be normal. I think that the word normal is so relative, and we've learned that over and over again, I think, during the last 2 years. And so we will focus on getting, increasing our parental engagement and getting some of those activities concluded. So we look forward to seeing our children again, even though they've just departed. We'll see them again on April 25th for the start of the new school term. We are going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
In Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go. Let's start the show. Youth on the go. Let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around. An adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Let's start the show. Youth on the go. Let's start the show.
Let's go. Good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Vaughn Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to another edition of Youth on the Go here on Vaughn Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education here on Nevis, and of course we are here with you every Saturday, and we share opportunities, events, activities as much as we can to assist and of course to support the development of our students, and this Saturday is no different. In fact, we started off this morning sharing some information that I'm sure the entire Nevision public is now aware of, but we took a moment out to acknowledge the passing of our former premier and of course current ambassador with the federal government, His Excellency Honorable Vance Emery, and we know that the entire island is, most persons are still a bit in shock, and of course we at the same time acknowledge his contribution to our development as an island, as a nation, and extending far beyond perhaps ways in which most of us may never become aware, but we want to commend and acknowledge his contribution to the development of the Federation, and more specifically the island of Nevis. All right, so we also want to take a few moments out to share some activities with us, some opportunities. Even though school is closed, there are several opportunities out there, parents, for our students to get involved in. So get your pencils out, children, so that you can take note of some of the things that you can do during this time to keep you meaningfully occupied. Okay, first of all, we have the Exposition Nevis. The Ministry of Tourism has many exciting activities coming up, and not just exciting, but informational, educational, and engaging activities coming up. And so we have a primary schools essay contest. That's one of the activities which are afoot, the primary schools essay contest. And so the topic for the contest is Rethinking Tourism. Rethinking Tourism. What initiatives can tourism-related businesses and government implement to further promote Nevis as a green tourist destination? I will repeat. Rethinking tourism. What initiatives can tourism-related businesses and government implement to further promote Nevis as a green tourist destination? Guidelines. The essay should be 500 words or less, no more than 500 words, and Each school is allowed to enter 4 essays. So students should make sure that they get theirs to their school according to the information shared by the Ministry of Tourism, and make sure that we get them in prior to the submission deadline. So the school will let you know when you should submit your entries by, and then by extension they will have to get to the Ministry of Tourism by the 29th of April 2022. So we look forward to receiving some attractive and exciting prizes. I remember last time, and of course this is not an announcement of the prizes for this round, but last time students got technological devices, vouchers, just so many prizes were awarded to the students, and so we're looking forward to seeing some of that once again. So children, make sure that you spend time during the Easter break. We have all of these days. We have quite a few days. Spend some time writing your essays so that you can submit them to the Ministry of Tourism, or through your school for onward submission to the Ministry of Tourism. All right, so that is just one of the activities. That is the activity for primary school students. That's the essay competition for primary school students. We also have a secondary school competition, and the secondary school competition is also exciting, I think, for this age group. They will have my iconic photograph and promotional video of Nevis contest. And that's part of Exposition Nevis as well. The contest rules and guidelines. Photographs and videos should capture images of Nevis that can be used for marketing Nevis as a prime tourist destination. Students can enter either the photograph or the video contest. Each photograph or video should have a name. All entries are to be submitted in digital form. Entries are to be submitted to a point teacher at the school, who will then forward them to the Ministry of Tourism. Each school is allowed to submit 10 entries for the video and 10 entries for the photo contest to a link that will be provided. If necessary, schools will have to select the top 10 at their level. Okay, for the photography element, students will be allowed to enter up to 2 photographs for judging, and for the promotional video of Nevis, it should be no longer than 60 seconds. So 1 minute is your maximum for that. Each student's photograph or video should be his or her own original creative work featuring unique aspects of Nevis as a tourist destination. A short description and a completed participation form should accompany the entry. Do not add text or color manipulations to photos submitted for judging. Okay, and there's a disclaimer for display and future use rights. By submitting an entry to the contest, the submitter grants permission to the Ministry of Tourism to use and rights associated to the use of the entry without compensation. The submission deadline: all entries of photos and videos should be submitted by April 29th, 2022 at 3 p.m. via the portal which will be provided to the schools. A panel of expert judges will be selected, and they will choose the first, second, and third place winners for both the photo and video contest. Additionally, photos and videos will be posted on the Ministry of Tourism's page, and a prize will be given for the most liked photo and video as of May 13th, 2022. The winners will be announced at the end of May. So very, very interesting and important competitions, as I said, taking place through the Ministry of Tourism. And we are not through. We have one more, and this one is for the students who are currently enrolled at the Cicely Brown Integrated School. The Cicely Brown Integrated School's Environmental Art Poster Competition. The theme: Keep Nevis Clean. Students are asked to create a poster depicting ways in which we can use each of the 3 R's: reuse, reduce, and recycle, to preserve and conserve our resources and keep our island clean. Guidelines for the competition. Participants must be students of the Cicely Brown Integrated School. The artwork must be original. All artwork should be submitted using standard manila-sized paper. The layout should be clean and communicate clearly the use of each of the 3 R's in the environment. Reuse, reduce, recycle, while keeping in line with the theme. There will be a first, second, and third place prize for each of those positions. All entries must be submitted to the Ministry of Tourism by 3 p.m. on Friday, 29th April 2022. Each submitted entry is subject to use by the Ministry of Tourism, and the winners will be announced during the month of May. And so we have, as I said, several opportunities, and we are not even done yet as it relates to opportunities, because as we know, a few weeks ago we shared with you some other competitions which are currently open, and we encourage students at all turns to ensure that they are participating in these activities. So the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment, and Talent Development also has a few competitions open. There is a poetry competition, and as I said, all of this work can be done during the Easter without it feeling as though it's work. So there's a poetry competition, verse to verse, the story of our people, and the rules must be the entrance original work. Poetry entries must be at least 10 but cannot exceed 30 lines. Do not use texting lingo. Properly spell out all words and numbers. Do not include your name or any other information at the end of the poem. The poem can be written in any poetic style and follow any number of themes, including erotica. Poems must be submitted in PDF form. Must not have been previously published or made public. Prizes. Wonderful prizes to be won. Winners will be featured in the poetry book publication. Entry deadline April 15th, 2022, and the winners will be announced on May 14th, 2022. So we're already in April, so students, make sure that you're participating, and adults as well. So we have 2 categories, ages 8 to 17 and ages 18 to 30. And by entering the competition, persons agree to have their work compiled and published. For more information, you can reach out to Mrs. Keisha Isaac Adams at moent.creativesector@gov.kn. We also have the story writing competition, and it must be stories of our islands, and that is the caption. Rules must be the entrance original work. Stories must be no less than 500 words and no more than 1,000 words. Stories must be typed, double-spaced, and in a readable 12-point font. Stories must not have been published or made public. Stories must be submitted in PDF form, written in any genre and following any number of themes excluding erotica. Wonderful prizes to be won, and of course they will be part of the book publication. Same deadline as the previously announced competition, April 15th, 2022, and the announcement of winners will be done on May 14th, 2022. And by entering, we agree, or anyone who enters agrees, to have your work compiled and published. The same 2 categories obtain the ages 8 to 17, that's the first category, and ages 18 to 30, that's the second category. And then to capture all of this, or to culminate all of this, we have the cover art competitions. So we have the storybook cover for Stories of Our Islands and the poetry book cover for The Story of Our People. And it must be the entrance original work. The design must be original to the artist. Designs must be hand created. Designs must include the book title. Cover art must be submitted in JPEG, PNG, or TIFF, and the art must not have been published or made public. the prizes, wonderful prizes to be won. Winners will be featured in both of the poetry and story writing publications, depending on which one you enter. And the deadline is the same, April 15th, 2022. The announcement of the winners, May 14th, 2022. And once again, by entering the competition, persons agree to have their work compiled and published. Same two categories, ages 8 to 17 and ages 18 to 30. So we have art competitions, we have poetry competitions, we have story writing competitions, we have essay competitions, we have video and photo competitions. All of them, all of the deadlines are taking us into mid to late April. And so once again, this time at home during the vacation period, parents, we actually have many activities for our children to do. Wonderful. I love it. And so I think that you should encourage your students to participate. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the powerhouse.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. An hour passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around. An adventure is always waiting. With storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
Let's go. Good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Von Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to another edition of Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and every Saturday we join you here via Von Radio through the Youth on the Go program to share opportunities, activities, updates as much as we can that will help to elevate, to develop, to provide opportunities to our students, to our young people. And of course this Saturday is no different. At every break we want to acknowledge for those who tuned in late. We want to send condolences to the entire Division public, the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and our diaspora, and more specifically those persons who are family members and close friends of the late His Excellency Honorable Vance Amory. And of course this morning we were rocked with that update. We were rocked with the news. There are no words that can tell or that can express how many persons feel this morning and how we feel as an island and as a nation. And so from the Youth on the Go, and from the Ministry and Department of Education, we want to express condolences to the family of this late and great former teacher, principal, and then ultimately Minister of Education here on Nevis. And as we look towards so many things that are happening, we know that transitions and change are always part of processes, and I think the great mark of any person in leadership is to provide the supports, provide the frameworks, and of course provide the training for persons with whom we're working, so that as we transition, whether it be out of the system or out of this world, that our marks will be would remain, and the impact that we have made on others will allow our legacy to continue to be carried on even in our absence. And so, of course, during the course of this week, we also learned of the upcoming pilot of census pilot of national assessments. If you would recall, over the past few years, we have had the test of standards being our national assessments for primary schools, and of course we have also national assessments at the secondary level through the common exams. We had to put a pause on both assessments over the last 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course we all know as well that we have been going through some transitions in terms of the curriculum offerings, making steps to improve the curriculum of St. Kitts and Nevis, to enhance the curriculum of St. Kitts and Nevis, which we are still working closely with teachers and education officials to fine-tune, to make into something that we can all be proud of. As part of this process, though, it's always important for us to have a way to assess the curriculum and, of course, to assess teaching and learning. And one such way is the upcoming activity, the census pilot of the national assessment. Of course, this format will be used or piloted this year, with some changes, some additions happening over the next few years as well. This is not replication of the test of standards, and I'm going to take a few moments out today to just share some information with us on the census pilot, which will be in place come the end of this school year, or just has already started to be implemented, and will continue to into term 3. Before we go any further, I think that we have to take a few moments to talk about the purpose of national assessments, the purpose of this particular census pilot, and of course national assessments going forward. And the purpose is broken down into 3 distinct elements. 1, to determine the effectiveness of curriculum delivery in the advancement of student success. 2, to inform educational decision making and guide continuous school and system improvement. And 3, to serve as an accountability measure for the public. And so we'll realize that we didn't say, for example, to place students, or to separate students, or to label students, or any of those things. We want it to be, 1, to help us to determine how effective are we in delivering the curriculum, and in some ways, how effective is the curriculum, and what changes can we make to ensure student success. And then, of course, to inform educational decision making and guide continuous school and system improvement. That is our aim. We have to use data to help us to adjust, and in the absence of data, sometimes, one person might observe something over here and then something else is being observed over there, but we don't have combined data to help us to make the changes that make sense for the system. And so collecting such information is also important to us as part of this process. And then, to serve as an accountable measure for the public, we are accountable to you, members of the public, and so we will have to use this information to help us to let you know how as a nation, and how as an island our students are performing, what are some of the gaps that we're seeing, and all of that. So national assessments, whether it be this current census pilot or national assessments going forward, should help us to reach these specifically stated purposes that was shared. Please note that this year, as I said, the census pilot information will also help to shape the national assessments going forward. So it will help us to see how we can improve. And I think everything in life has to evolve. Everything is dynamic. Everything has to change from time to time. It's not always easy for us to embrace change, of course, because when we're comfortable, when something has quote unquote worked for a long time, sometimes we don't see a need to change it. How did we get here though? How do we get to this point of having to, make some adjustments and some changes? This wasn't something that, you woke up this morning and decided, let's do this. No, it came about as a result of a very long process, a process which preceded even my entry into this post. This process started many years ago across the Federation. We might have heard reference, for example, to the Education Sector Plan, and we talk about that being our framework or our roadmap for education in the Federation. And it told us, it highlighted through consultations some of the major gaps which we had in our system, and that of course was a very long process. The data collection process for the education sector plan in itself was a very long process. Many stakeholders were met, conversations were had, and over several months and years. And so one of those gaps spoke to the education, our system's curriculum, and another clear gap was of course some of these challenges with the way we assess the curriculum, where we spent more time assessing and ranking children as opposed to focusing on how we could improve curriculum delivery, how we could properly support our teachers in the delivery of content, and of course ensuring mastery, student mastery, so that when you go from grade to grade, we don't hear, this child didn't learn anything in the previous grade, this child doesn't know anything, but how can we make sure that the pace that we're using is appropriate for the children, that the content is appropriate for each child, to ensure that he or she can master it and can ultimately be successful. How can we ensure, what can we do to make sure that our children can transfer learning? How can we ensure that what we taught them in grade 3, they can see the connection when we get to grade 4 or grade 5 or grade 6, and can continue to scaffold or build on what they already know. We always know in education that you would have to review, you would have to repeat, you would have to reinforce, but sometimes you have to reteach, but you want those instances to be in the minimum and not the majority of situations. So those are some of the things that we had to through the education sector plan and through preparations for the national assessment processes and the assessment of the curriculum. Those were some of the things that we had to really focus in on and have those conversations with our parents and the general public. The conversations did not start and end within the system. They extended, as I said, to parents, and then the business community, the general community were also their thoughts were also captured in both processes, so we were able to get a sense of what they're looking for. And we would hear complaints about, for instance, the education system does not prepare children for the real world. They do not. They come to the world of work and they don't have basic skills. And so, taking a look at some of the skills that the business community would prefer to see coming with them coming with our students to the business world and to the business community, we also had to take a closer look at that. So this curriculum enhancement process, which is directly linked to national assessment, is a work in progress. It's very much, I still would say, somewhat in its infancy, and I know it will take a few years to have that level of change and training. I know as a society we often expect perfection, and we expect perfection from the jump, but in order for us to ensure that it really meets what the needs of the students, the needs of the teachers, and the needs of our community, we also know that we will have to make adjustments, and that's just wisdom. Wisdom dictates that no matter how well thought out you think a plan is, that in taking into consideration what our stakeholders have to say is an important component to its actual success, and we want actual success and not perceived success. I know smoke screens are good, you put on a show. That's not what we're about. We're about ensuring actual success, actual student success, and at whatever level our students are at. And so I know, as I said, you were privy to some information this week as it relates to national assessments, and so we'll open the door of communication today, and there are several other we'll have several other opportunities to share with you as it relates to national assessments. We'll take a short break, and I will continue after the break.
Sugar City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. I know we're gonna have a great time. An hour passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's Youth on the Go. Youth on the Go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, Youth on the Go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around. An adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the Go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, Youth on the Go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
Let's go. Good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Von Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And welcome to another edition of Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we're here with you on Saturdays to share information, updates, activities, opportunities for our students, for our young people. This morning we have shared with you, of course, our condolences and acknowledgement on the passing of former Premier and Ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Honorable Vance W. Amory, and we also shared with you some information, some important information, and some competitions which are currently available for our students and for our young people. And then we transitioned into sharing some information as it relates to the upcoming census pilot of national assessments here on St. Kitts and Nevis, which, as we knew from during COVID, we had we took a pause from national assessments and took into consideration our students' psychological well-being and all of the other factors associated with COVID. But we also are aware that as we navigate our way through the pandemic, and as some would say, learning to live with the virus, we also know that we are taking some steps in ensuring that we have the mechanisms in place to measure the work done in the enhanced curriculum. And the enhanced curriculum was piloted in grades 4 and 6 in 2020. And then September 2020 into 2021, and then once again from September 2021 to this point, we included grade 5 in that pilot. The key stages for assessment, just giving you a quick background, key stages for assessment as outlined through the education sector plan and through our various frameworks. Our key stages which have been identified are kindergarten, grade 2, grade 4, and grade 6. To date, we have not had a national assessment for kindergarten and grade 2, and that will continue, of course, in this upcoming season of assessments, and as we roll out and extend, of course, the public will be brought up to speed. But the proposed, the census pilot for national assessments will take place in grades 4 and 6. It will, and for purposes of information, test of standards, that assessment which was labeled as test of standards, has been discontinued. So we will not be using test of standards going forward. The approach to assessment also has been tweaked, has been enhanced in some instances. I know that parents used to always say, well, these assessments are capturing just one day, one day of the child's entire academic career and of the child's life. What happens beyond that one day? What happened before that one day? And so we are trying to get the assessment process to mirror a little bit closer what students know over a time period within various tasks. And so the assessment approach for this year will consider assessments in 2 subject areas. We are aware that there are 5 subject areas. We are getting the assessments for 2 of the 5 core subject areas for primary schools, language arts and mathematics. The language arts assessment is broken down into 2 parts, a portfolio which captures 50% of the grade, and an assessment paper which captures 50% of the grade. The assessment paper focuses on the reading strand of the enhanced curriculum, and it will assess reading comprehension. Okay, and the writing component, which is captured in the portfolio, will capture students' writing, which looks at how they organize their thoughts, how they can express their ideas, sentence structure, spelling, and grammar. There is another component, which is the listening and speaking component of the enhanced curriculum, and we will in language arts, and we will not assess that component through this particular census pilot this year, of course acknowledging that in the upcoming years that will be done. In mathematics, we will look at working with numbers. Will take up the majority of the assessment, and 70% will be allocated to the written assessment paper, and then there's a performance task which the students will have to complete, and that will take 30% of the final grade for the assessment. As I said, we will spend some time going into greater detail so that persons are clear, but I think it's important for us to also take some time to say to parents that we are currently working with teachers and principals to ensure that they can support the students at home, that this is a census pilot of the national assessment to gather data on the enhanced curriculum and on our implementation of the enhanced curriculum to the students. I know when we hear of national assessments, we automatically often go into panic mode, and we start thinking of putting a lot of extra pressure on our students, sending sometimes into test anxiety, but we want parents to know that we want a snapshot of what is happening, where our students are, and on our end, we are definitely not expecting perfection, but we're expecting for students to give of their best based on what they have mastered and what they know. It is not our intention to put extra stress or strain on the teachers to go into a frenzy and start, having to teach extra stuff and all of that. Once again, we're trying to monitor and get a sense of what our students have mastered in just these 2 areas, mathematics and language arts, and of course with the specified content which was outlined and which has been outlined to teachers as well. We have been also working, or maybe I should take a pause there, the major, or the only component for the written assessment is reading comprehension, and we know we know that this process will help us to get an idea of how well our students are reading and understanding what they're reading through the comprehension process. And so we will be able to see at what level our students are mastering and are able to read and understand. We know that we have had some setbacks through COVID-19. We know that we have had some challenges. We've spoken to the existence of learning gaps, for instance, and so all of those things are at play, and we are aware that all of those things are at play. And so as we look at some of the potential challenges, parents, we want to encourage you not to put that additional pressure on your children or get into a panic mode. The information gathered will not be used for placement in secondary school. The information gathered will not be used to rank your children or to rank schools or any of that. The information which will be gathered will be used to help us to shape the assessment process and also to be able to improve for the full rollout of national assessment next school year. So those are and as we speak to those components, we want parents to remember, once again, we're not trying to put the additional pressure on the students. I know that some persons are thinking, well, as soon as, because the assessments are taking place, the school-based components will be taking place from April to May, and then the written papers will be given in June, early to mid-June. But the data gathered will not be used even in the graduation ceremony or any of that. It's data capture, it's data gathering to ensure that we have the information that we need, as I said. So, as I said, some parents are saying, well, as soon as you're finished with inter-primary or as soon as you're finished with sports season, we're going to focus on national assessments. We're going to focus on making sure that you can score high on national assessment. Of course, we will never dissuade parents from encouraging their students to achieve or to pursue excellence. That would never be the case, but we want to also encourage you to allow them to master. It's not about a cramming session so that they can look good on paper for one assessment, but how can we ensure that what the skills displayed, the apparent value or successes are actually real and can help us to then be able to help your student and other students in the process. So let's try our best to not put that additional pressure, as I said, on the students and on the teachers as well. Teachers will try their best to transition. This is, of course, a new process for them, and they themselves are also in the learning processes, and it is a census pilot. And maybe I should explain also what a census pilot is. A census pilot is instead of piloting with just a few select schools, the census pilot captures all students at all schools in the federation. So all students will receive the assessment, and then we'll be able to go from there. All right, so we will share much more information with you over time, parents, but we want to make sure that you are aware that what you can do for your students to help them to prepare for the assessment is that you acknowledge that the assessment is designed to look like a normal a class assessment in language arts and math, and the difference would be that the instructor, the person giving the exam, will not be the classroom teacher. and the person giving the exam will have scripted directions so that all students across the Federation have the same instructions, and those are just put in place to ensure that all students have the same or an equitable assessment experience. And so on that note, we are going to close out, and we wish you all the very best this week. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll keep the conversation up as it relates to national assessments in the upcoming weeks. Thank you, and have a wonderful week.
With all the power